Good morning, fellow insomniacs. First things first, I've never been a Chapo fan. Like, I actually, and I guess, am kind of unique in that I rarely watch other podcasters or streamers or content creators. I don't know why I'm like that. Maybe it's my Everest sized ego. Maybe it's because I don't know. I just think that as a black person, I really don't think that I will gain much from listening to a a white podcast. But like at the same time, I have respect for other people who use this medium to educate people about socialism and communism and the need for a better way of organizing society. So, one of the founders of Chapo Trap House, Matt Christman, is currently in the hospital. And Twitter has been acting a fucking fool over it. But Twitter is always acting a damn fool over something. But, like, I'm just going to say this. Even though I've never really listened to Chapo, okay? No person who is, who's married, he has a kid that is possibly going to be coming tomorrow. Like, the internet makes us so fucking cruel and hateful. Like, it's a double-edged sword. Okay, Mao said that one divides into two. So on one hand, the internet is an extremely good tool for political education and spreading knowledge and educating yourself, but it's also bad because it turns us into fucking narcissists and sociopaths. Like, there's no way, no matter what this person has said, no matter what Matt has said, unless he's an outright fascist, which he is not, like, you should not be celebrating this man being laid up in the hospital when he has a kid on his way. Um, no matter how much I disagree with somebody, I would never, ever, ever say that, yeah, let's make his wife a widow and let's let his kid grow up without a father. I grew up without a father, okay? It sucks. So, whatever my limited solidarity on Twitch and YouTube means, I hope he has a full and speedy recovery and he is around for many years to come to enjoy the company of his family. So that being said, decided I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to call it Cult Watch because if you know anything about the left, you know that the left has a bunch of weird and wacky groups. And yeah, I picked on the KFA earlier this week. That's low hanging fruit. Like, nobody takes people like that seriously. But um, it's like a trend in the hard left, so to speak, for there to arise these high control, fucked up ass groups. I might do LaRouche next if enough people ask for it. Like, you're the probably the third or fourth person that's asked me to do LaRouche. Plus, they're tied heavily into Caleb Maupin and the Pat Suck type people. Um, anyways, so like, let's just try to get to the bottom. Like, why does the left, the hard left, your Maoists, your MLs, what have you, like, why are these weird ass groups constantly generated? Like, does it have something to do with the fact that we live in the imperial core? Does it have something to do with the fact that certain people know that leftists often tend to be very credulous and gullible and naive people that want deeply to improve the world that we live in and thereby are taken advantage of? So the Maoists, and I use that word in big air quotes, but like the Maoists that thought that the world is controlled by an evil computer named Jackie. So, when I said that I was going to be talking about this group, they call themselves the Workers Institute for Advanced Theoretical Studies of Nature, but they are better known to niche and fringe history as the Workers Institute. Hold on, I don't want to fuck this up. Workers Institute of Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. But whatever they called themselves, they were led by this guy, Aravindan Balakrishnan. And I actually have a follower from the UK who actually ran across some of these people. He died last year. But no, not my follower. This fella died last year, Balakrishnan. And he actually ran into one of these people, sent me an email. Said, "Comrade, I saw your tweet about doing a deep dive into the Workers' Institute of Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought, and thought the attached might be of use to you. It's a recent leaflet by their successor organization, the Workers' Institute for Advanced Theoretical Studies of Nature. Josie Harrival was stood outside a meeting I attended, handing out copies of the attached. The attached is what I have pulled up on my screen. I've seen her before at demonstrations, handing out similar literature and protesting Bala's innocence. She looks very frail, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was skipping meals to pay for stuff related to her defense of him. It was really quite sad. I'm no shrink, but it appears that she's suffering from the world's worst ever case of Stockholm Syndrome. I found our encounter quite upsetting. Here is no life to live. Hers is no life to live. Best of luck with the stream, comrade." So, yeah, this is what the comrade was handed. Aravindan Balakrishnan, born July 16th, 1940, died April 8th, 2022. This guy was actually sentenced to prison for horrible things. In 2016, he was jailed for 23 years in 2016. So I think I just read it. He was 81 years old. He called himself Comrade Bala. And he went to prison for child cruelty, false imprisonment, and assault. How very Maoist of you. He went kind of heavy on the struggle sessions, it seems. Anyways, so this is what the cult says about this guy. This kind and gentle man, whose selfless service to the people of the world touched the lives of so many, was a voice for the voiceless and legendary for his fearless and unwavering determination to expose the racist and fascist nature of the U.S.-led British state. U.S.-led British state, and bring it to account. In 2013, he was framed by the British fascist state and its racist metropolitan police and sentenced to 23 years imprisonment. In 2016, a death sentence for a life of political activism. Okay, this is what cults always do. When they get caught doing their fuck shit, okay, yes, the police do lie. But in many cases, these people are actually doing the horrible things that they have been charged with doing. So this guy, Balakrishnan, was indeed a child molester, an abuser, and a distortionist, a fucker up of communist ideology. Like, people don't understand. Like, people that join these groups and these high control, narcissistic ass so-called leaders, like, they make communism look like shit. So an average person reads this because the bourgeois press is going to pick it up. Your Daily Mail, your LA Times, all these types of weirdos. They're going to pick this stuff up. And they're going to be like, see, you want communism? You're going to be led by assholes like this. So for as much as these people talk about being framed by the state, they actually serve the state by making communism look weird as fuck. So they claim that he suffered 6 years of psychological and physical torture in British prisons because of his political activism. Like, bro, you're not fucking McLean. You're not fucking Anuradha Gandhi. You're not Mao. You are a sad dude that abused and manipulated poor people who all these people wanted to do was change the fucking world. They were tired of living under this horrible system, and you took advantage of these people's goodwill and their naivete, and you abused them. You were never, ever a threat to the British fascist state. So what did this guy believe? The pamphlet says that he taught us that in order to hold on to power, the secret state run by a handful of ruling class families, such as the Cecil and Rothschild families, that sounds very LaRoucheite, continued its centuries-old brutal rule from behind the scenes, whether Labour or Tories are elected, while inculcating working people in Britain with belief in the inherent justness of the ossified bourgeois state system which oppresses them, using the British parliamentary political system. Okay, first thing, if your goal is to make average, ordinary, everyday workers in the UK give a fuck about this weirdo, why are you using language about this? Like this. Like, nobody knows what the fuck this means. If somebody handed me something like this, or if somebody handed any other normie something like this, well, I wouldn't define myself as a normie. But anyways, like, if you hand somebody something like this, they're going to look at it and their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to throw it in the fucking garbage. Like, I always tell people this, like, make your propaganda understandable. So, this is another thing that cults always do. Historic talk. Okay, if your speech is going to be historic, for example, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech was historic because he led, well, he helped lead a mass movement that involved millions of people. How many people were in this room when Comrade Bala gave this speech? Maybe 30? And that's the largest crowd you've ever talked to? Like, that's not a historic speech, that's a rant. So, on October 15th, 1976, he gave this stupid talk, this stupid speech at University College, where he popularized 3 points on the nature of a state. He analyzed that it is a fascist state, an imperialist state, and an integral part of NATO. Okay, all three of those are true. Cults usually. What books are good to learn about China under Mao? Red Star under China, if you're interested in like where the Communist Party of China came from. Wind in the Tower, and anything by Hinton, Hinton, Fanshin, Shinfan, The Great Reversal. Um, and there's a couple others that kind of slipped my mind. But yeah, anything by William Hinton or Han Suyin. So, anyways, what cults do is they take the real grievances of the people and they put them in their propaganda, but they also are very, very heavy on their own distortions. Yes, the United States and the UK are fascist imperialist states, and they're also integral parts of NATO. That is true. But you center all of your analysis around Comrade Bala as Comrade Bala. He's not a speaker, he's the entire orientation of this group. That is a cult. So you waged a campaign to clear Comrade Bala's name. Since 2016, members of the Workers' Institute distributed leaflets to thousands of people throughout Britain at meetings, conferences, and demonstrations about the persecution of Comrade Bala and the nature of the British state, which cruelly framed, convicted, imprisoned, and tortured him, and has now murdered him. Okay, the guy was 81 years old. He wasn't murdered, okay? That's the thing that gets me about Gonzalo, okay? If I recall correctly, Gonzalo died from pneumonia. But, like, they always have this conspiratorial outlook. Oh, Comrade Gonzalo was murdered. No, he was an old fucking man. He died of natural causes. Granted, being in prison probably exacerbated the natural causes. But, like, at the same time, like, they did not go into this man's room and smother him with a pillow. He died because he was old as fuck. So they quote Pastor Martin Niemöller. First, I came for the communists and I did not speak out, blah, 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 blah. Very well known speech. What's the attraction of Gonzalo? Edgy white kids in the Imperial Corps like Gonzalo because he's obscure. Very few people know who he is. And he was also very, very ultra left. But yeah, his fans were very weird, are very weird. Also very sectarian and just generally not very nice people. A lot of them actually have roots in the hardcore punk scene. Yeah. Straight edgeness is also a really big thing for them. So, yeah. They're another cult. They're going to definitely be on Cult Watch soon. Why does the British state fear Comrade Bala's work so much? And, like, again, just a long, long, long fucking thing. Like I said, an average workers, you call yourself the Workers' Institute, yet you write like the academics that you are. Like, nobody is going to read this shit. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to break in and spring Comrade Bala Krishnan from prison. This is interesting. They call themselves Maoists, but they talk about socialist China. Okay, Maoists believe that China hasn't been socialist since 1970, roughly 1978, before the Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up. So the three revolutionary movements they see are spontaneous mass upsurges, the struggles of oppressed people against neo-colonial rape and plunder, and the socialist revolutionary movement, which socialist China leads by example. This combined revolutionary force is relentlessly smashing the US led capitalist imperialist old world to smithereens. Again, stupid garbage. Down with the US led British fascist state. Uphold the communist spirit of self sacrifice of beloved comrade Bala. Victory to world people's socialist revolution. A better world's in birth. Ugh. I'm gonna have to take a shower after this. Like I feel like I just got funky just by reading this. So instead of Carlos Marighella or interesting weirdos like Abraham Quellen, they chose a guy who looks like a Presbyterian preacher who hates gay people. I don't think Gonzalo hated gay people. I think his dogmatism was just so weird that like he basically thought that you're either a leftist, a rightist, or a centrist. And if you are not a leftist, then you are a centrist at best who should be lectured to. And if you're a rightist, you deserve to be selectively annihilated was the term that they used. But I don't think Gonzalo like hated gay people as a rule. So this Workers' Institute, this was issued in 1977. So like this was the genesis. I think this guy was kicked out of the Communist Party of Great Britain, which is also a notoriously horrible party. So he was too horrible for the horrible Communist Party. But like that's the thing. Like the British left has just universally been trash. If I recall correctly, Engels talked about how bourgeois the English proletariat is. And notice I said English, not Irish. But like they've been garbage since Engels' day. So I'm not going to read all of this because like my eyes are going to glaze over. But like just look at the title. Workers Institute successfully conducts vigorous program to uphold Chairman Mao's revolutionary line amidst the mass upsurge in Britain. A report like who fucking writes like this? Who fucking writes like this? And what worker is going to read shit like this in his or her or their spare time? So it's a report. Um, Basically talking about like horrible shit that's going on in Britain. And this was right before the onset of the Thatcher era. Thatcher came to power in 1979. Rest in peace. So you also had big miners' strike in the 80s, but like so this is leading up to the Thatcherite era. So pretty stock Marxist-Leninist Mao Zedong thought, because remember Maoism did not exist at this time. Maoism at this period was Mao Zedong thought. So pretty stock analysis. The fascist bourgeoisie of Britain, past masters at passing on the burden to the countries of the Third World, are no longer able to do so in the old way because the countries of the Third World, led by socialist China today, are today on the warpath against the evil old world of colonialism, imperialism, and hegemonism that is propped up by the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. So if you ever read a document from the 70s and they say the United States and the Soviet Union are two superpowers, it's probably Maoist influenced or Maoist. And their hangers on such as Britain. Living on borrowed money and borrowed time, the fascist bourgeoisie are therefore trying desperately to get out of this crisis by pushing it onto the shoulders of the people of Britain. And more dense bullshit. But you can still see, like, this was basically an average, ordinary, everyday anti-revisionist group in the 70s. Yeah. I have ADHD. And, like, I'm not going to sit here and read this whole fucking thing. You could also tell it's a Maoist anti-revisionist document because they have people that they're mad at. They repudiate the Gang of Four: Birch, Baines, Reeks, Evans. So this actually isn't a Maoist document because no Maoist worth their salt in the year 1976 would call people the Gang of Four. A bit of history: the Gang of Four were the representatives of what you can call the proletarian revolutionary or the left wing line in the Communist Party of China. They were basically unasked by Deng Xiaoping because they were very, very good at theory. And as long as Mao was alive, they were pretty much good. But after Mao died, they were basically thrown to the wolves. One of the Gang of Four was Zhongqing, Mao's wife. Then the rest were Yao Wenyang, Wang Hongwen, and who the fuck was the other one? Chang Chunchao. Um, so yeah, the Gang of Four were the revisionists consider them the ultra leftists. So no Maoist organization in the year 1977 anywhere in the world would be calling people the Gang of Four because the Gang of Four was upheld by Maoists. So by using that term in a derogatory fashion, they've kind of shown how they're pretty eclectic. Um, where was I? So, and they lionize and do a tribute to Mao. When beloved Chairman Mao passed away on September 9th, our comrades worked tirelessly to transform our profound grief into great strength. Right in the heart of the revolutionary base area in Brixton. Brixton is basically it's basically the ghetto part of London, okay? Well, it was at this time. Very huge Afro-Caribbean population. And there were several riots there. Jimmy Cliff actually talks about Brixton in a song. It's literally called The Guns of Brixton. So, very working class and lumpen and black area. So, they talk about right in the heart of the revolutionary base area in Brixton. We have opened from October 1st, 1976. That's China's National Day. The Mao Zedong Memorial Center, a workers' center, library, and bookshop. The only one of its kind in the world. That's right there is a sign of potential cult bullshit. Anytime you have somebody that's referring to a community center, a library, and a bookshop as the only one of its kind in the world, like that's a sign that they have a very, very insular and narrow worldview, okay? Because you can go to Greece or Italy or Spain and you can find autonomous workers, libraries, bookshops, and cafes on every fucking corner in every working class neighborhood. Like, it is not the only one of its kind in the world. So they're already demonstrating to people that join this organization that, hey, we're the only show on the road. Everybody else is reformists, revisionists, and opportunists. Since joining DSA, I've gotten a taste of this type of activity from like Maoists who are basically saying that I've sold out and betrayed the movement by joining an organization that has tens of thousands of members. No, I want to fucking win, okay? Like this shit, and like people still talk like this today. Like, it's not hitting on shit, man. No average person is going to believe this shit. No average person cares about any of this stuff. You have to be reachable and accessible and actually talk like a human fucking being. Not an evil computer named Jackie. More on her later. Thousands of working people have visited the center. No, the fuck they've not. Like, okay, working class people in Britain, where do they hang out? The pub. Okay, they don't go to a center, library, and bookshop run by a cult. Okay, like no, they might come to throw eggs and laugh at you, or like see what the fuck you're doing in the neighborhood, but they're not going to engage with any of your stuff. Hundreds of them have participated in the vigorous revolutionary program, meetings, film shows, etc. So they're going to come watch Chinese propaganda films instead of going and downing a pint at the pub? Yeah, certainly happened. Shit that didn't happen for 5,000, Alex. A steady core of them are now attending regularly the political evening, aka brainwashing, school, and the theoretical study groups which popularize invincible Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought. Oh God. This has taken the British fascist state by storm. In its vain attempt to escape the verdict of history, it has spared no efforts to intimidate and harass the comrades of the Institute. Like, that's just an evil-ass name, the Institute. In Fallout, those are the bad people. Those are the people that come and snatch people and replace them with synths. Arrests, expulsions from jobs, evictions, psychological warfare in various forms have not in any way restrained our comrades, workers, and intellectuals, blah, 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 blah. fearing neither hardship nor death in upholding the proletarian revolutionary line of Chairman Mao, and following closely our great, glorious, and correct party, the Party of World Revolution. Are they referring to the CCP or what? We are preparing ourselves to greet the greatest event in the history of mankind, the victory of the World People's Revolution, in the establishment of the International Dictatorship of the Proletariat. Party Committee, March 31st, 1977. So they're already displaying a bit of batshitness here. So, if you've never read Errol and you want like a history of like what the anti-revisionist left was in the 60s and 70s, you should read that. This page is particularly about the consolidation of Maoism in Great Britain. They actually had quite a few organizations. There's a family tree. They made one for the United States and a bunch of other countries too. But like, so all of them come from the Communist Party of Great Britain because the old Cominternist parties, that's where like that was it. So what usually happens is 5 or 6 or 7 people get some clout in one of these parties, and they end up getting expelled by people who have even more clout than them, or they leave and they take a handful of followers with them. So, all of these groups come back here. So, you have the CPGB, Committee to Defend Revisionism for Communist Unity, Hammer and Anvil Group, Action Center for ML Unity, Marxist-Leninist Organization of Britain, 1967, Communist League, 1975, Workers' Newsletter, Working People's Party of England, Workers' Party of Scotland, ML, British Marxist-Leninist Organization. Just dozens of these groups. Dozens. And none of them did a fucking thing. None of them. Like, who remembers this shit anymore? Nobody. So, the cult eventually got their memorial center closed by the British fascist state. So they have this bombastic bullshit here. Maoist documents always open with shit like this. Beloved Chairman Mao will live forever. Death to the 2 superpowers. Death to the British fascist state. Uphold the communist spirit of self-sacrifice of the 6 women comrades. So, at 5:30 on the morning of March 22nd, 1978, the British fascist state sends well over 200 police, especially the Special Patrol Group, to close down the Mao Zedong Memorial Centre at 140 Ucker Lane in Brixton, London. Having sealed off the whole area, the fascist police made a raid on the centre with riot shields and dogs under the pretext of searching for drugs, which you were probably using, and arrested all the comrades in the building. Of the 9 people arrested that day, the struggles of 6 women comrades merits attention. From the time of the raid to the time they were brought to the fascist court 5 years later, these 6 women comrades were subjected by the police to the type of fascist brutality that one hears about in the British mass media as happening out there in Iran, South Africa, Chile, or Northern Ireland. They were physically assaulted many times, their heads being banged against the wall. Arrested in their night clothes, they were strip-searched by male policemen while rape threats and other sexual taunts were made against them. Okay, that probably happened, because that's what cops do. So far, it's just a report on shit that they happened. Our comrades kept denouncing and exposing this fascism and singing the Internationale and the East is Red. One of the fascist police criminals, aghast at the fighting spirit of the women communists, spoke for the rest of his cohorts by openly boasting, "I'm perfectly within my rights to break your arm. This is a fascist state. I am a member of the National Front." The National Front was basically a street fascist group that went around beating the fuck out of people. I want to talk about how they went to court. And they say that the police didn't let them open the center back up. They first tried to get the local council to take over the building, and then they gave the building back to its former owner. So, yeah, we lost their building. Then they started denouncing the courts and refusing to recognize their authority. That's a nice way to get your building back. And another thing they do is like when people criticize them, all cults like make light of the criticism. Throw the hired scribes of the bourgeoisie vainly try to label us by describing the Workers' Institute as the most lunatic fringe of the lunatic fringe in Britain. That's actually a very apt um, description, considering the later course of events. Their masters are well aware of the danger of the rapid growth and development of the Workers' Institute in the past 4 years to their class interests. In particular, they are worried about the correctness of our position and the example that we are setting. No, they're not. One comrade after another has gone through a planned and concerted effort by the British fascist state and their masters, the American imperialists, to cripple our organization. Regular police harassment, intimidation, physical attacks, blah, 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 have not stopped the comrades of the Workers' Institute from using this fascist condition as an excellent training ground to steal our cadres and purify our organization. Again, purification. We must be pure. We are the chosen ones. By ridding it of careerists and other opportunist elements, our comrades, fearing neither hardship nor death, in upholding the great and sacred banner of beloved Chairman Mao, have gone on from strength to strength in serving the working people of Britain and the world. Trash. Absolute fucking trash. Yes, it's fucked up that the police did that to you. But like at the same time, bruh, just go get another fucking building. Like, you are the most lunatic fringe of the lunatic fringe in Britain. You take yourself so fucking super seriously, and eventually you degenerate into believing that an evil computer controls the world, and the rapey old guy has mind control powers. And it goes on for a few more paragraphs. Like I said, I have ADHD and I'm not reading all this shit. So they did a bulletin. International Children's Day. The organization led by a pedo really cares about International Children's Day. Brixton child of 4 and father militantly stand up to the bullying by the evil British fascist state. This reads like something that a supervillain group would put out. What are you guys talking about on my chat? El Salvador? Oh my god, this shit's gonna make my eyeglass diopter go up a couple. Well, shit, go down a couple points. So, flash forward 30 years. Oh, y'all can talk about whatever the fuck y'all want. So this is Bala Krishna's so-called daughter, but she actually spent 30 years living with these people. And like she basically cracked the whole fucking thing open. They actually held her hostage and did not let her leave. Like, she was beaten when if she had any contact with the outside world. So this girl would hold up a sign with "Help Me" written on it, but the letters were too small to be read from the street. So, um, like, what was it like living inside this group? We've already read their crappy ideological documents. Um, so, like, what was it like living here? Like, what were these people like? And how was this girl's mind warped by living in this group? Like, because like if you've been isolated from the world, like there's entire stories from years ago about feral children, kids that lived in the woods and stuff like that. So this is something that has a very, very long history. Um, this girl knew nothing about how the outside world worked. When they pulled into a service station, the unfamiliarity with the outside world was immediately apparent. They had 5 adults, except that we weren't. Katie had no concept of dangers. She kept walking in front of cars. She just stood there in front of the toys and books. Oh, wow, she said. Anything that twinkled caught her eye. It was like being with one of our grandchildren. So this was arrested development. Like, this girl had no contact with the outside world whatsoever. So this grown woman, she's walking in front of cars because she's never been on the fucking street. And she's just standing in front of toys and books, like grown woman, obsessed with toys and books because she was not allowed to have this shit when she was a kid and supposed to be playing with these things. Her ability to perform everyday tasks at the time of her release was like that of a 6 or 7 year old kid. And you have this other woman that was freed from this cult who has since returned to London where she is campaigning for Bala release. You have Stockholm Syndrome. See? So this is one of the people that blew the whistle on you, but she's so fucking brainwashed that she thinks that Jackie is going to kill her, I guess. So she comes back and she works to get this guy freed. And like that's another thing. Like they're never gonna free these fucking people. They've done horrible, horrible fucking crimes, raping kids. Comrade Bala ran the Brixton Collective, using violence, intimidation, and fear. This 75-year-old man will be sentenced for rape, sexual assault, and the assault of 2 members in false imprisonment and cruelty towards his daughter, Fran, who spent the first 30 years of her life inside the cult. Now, Harrival, this was the guy, the lady that the guy that sent me the email met. She started to regret it. I wish I'd never done it. She believes Balakrishnan, who threatened that anyone who left the cult would be struck down by a Chinese-controlled electronic satellite warfare machine called Jackie, is innocent. Meeting the Guardian for an in-depth interview in Leeds, where she has been living in a safe house with victims of trafficking and modern-day slavery, the 59-year-old Belfast-born woman tells how she rejects outright her diagnosis of Stockholm syndrome, the psychological condition where hostages emphasize with their captors, and how she has refused attempts to reintegrate her into what she still believes is a fascist state. She has rebuffed approaches by her long-lost older sisters, Susan and Mary. They are just trying to tell me I have done the wrong thing, she says. I am just trying to be single-minded. They call AB an abuser without knowing anything about the case. I can't deal with this sort of thing at the moment. Maybe later on. This lady used to play the violin and do all sorts of stuff. What's up? Do all sorts of stuff. They tried to give her a violin. She didn't want to play it. This lady was a musical prodigy, but the cult had warped her brain so much that she didn't want to play. So, she was so fucked up. She was so isolated that she was speaking with an Indian accent. This lady was from fucking Belfast, and she's speaking with an Indian accent. She only saw the internet for the first time and was astonished by the avalanche of media coverage of the slave house from which he was said to have just fled. Harrival struggles with solitude and misses the connective enormously, saying, I can't bear being on my own. She has been watching television shows about cults and reading Paul Gambaccini's books about being wrongly accused of child abuse and Janice Sharp's book about her successful fight against the extradition of her son, Gary McKinnon, on computer hacking charges. She is finding purpose in focusing on trying to free Balakrishnan, but she had also reflected on how she got involved with him in the first place. So, she was the youngest of 3 daughters born to a dude, John Harrival, who was, he was a Cambridge educated mathematician and who worked with Alan Turing. If you're queer, you have to know who Alan Turing is. Look him up. and he cracked the Luftwaffe's Enigma code. He became a hero, and he produced three daughters. Um, so she was at this meeting with Bala about state of revolution in Britain that they referred to in that document. She probably wrote about it. I mean, she probably wrote that damn thing. It was October 15th, 1976. I can't ever forget it. Balakrishnan had the air of an Indian mystic. This is still the 70s, so Indian mystics are very popular. And her depression started to lift as she began attending Balakrishnan's political brainwashing sessions. I grew up with my father, who was supposed to have one of the best brains in Britain, but my mind was not excited. Aravindan really excited my mind. Haravel moved into a collective, sleeping 5 to her room, and was expelled from the RCM for wearing a Chairman Mao badge. Her worried mother and father paid a visit to the Workers' Institute. It was terrible. My father was there taking notes. Bala was talking about things that were for him explosive. Soviet Union, America, the British fascist state. My father started making funny comments, shouting and disturbing the meeting. I think he was frightened. At the end of the meeting, my mother said, "Give me back the violin." So I did. She hardly saw her mother or her blood father again. Bala became her father figure. Haravel had strong family connections to imperialist Britain. She found out that her mother's family were British officials in colonial India. Indeed, one of her relatives led British troops into Malaya, and she felt very ashamed. So when Bala talked about being under surveillance or attack from the state, for me the state was very personal. It was my family. So you basically got rich girl that's going to school, playing the violin, grew up in a very stodgy, traditional British family with ties to the colonial order, that meets this amazing, interesting Indian dude. Cult leaders are usually very charismatic and very good at attracting people who are not very versed in the ways of the world. It's like this person, rich girl, famous dad, who plays a violin, looking for something to do. So she rebels and ends up in this totalizing, strangulizing monstrosity of a cult. And she did have Stockholm Syndrome. Like, this guy was holding her hostage, beating her, raping women members, the women comrades that were supposed to have fought so valiantly against the police, and definitely, probably did. So these people that are being lionized in your official documents and your official press are at the mercy of this horrible misogynist that is doing horrible, atrocious things to these people. And Stockholm Syndrome will literally have you. You spent 38 years with this dude, okay? That is longer than I've been alive. That's probably longer than most of the people watching this have been alive. 38 fucking years. And you get out, you're in this shelter that helps people like you, and what do? You run away and you go back to you try to get this dude out that abused you, treated you horribly. So what happened to Bala? He died in prison, as we know. He was locked up for 23 years. He was in HMP, Her Majesty's Prison. Well, now it's His Majesty's Prison, Dartmoor. So he died April 8th. But yeah, that's what happened. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Rest in peace. So, he was a narcissist and a psychopath. I mean, you can tell by the documents that he wrote in the 70s. Self-aggrandizing. Your org is the center of the fucking world. Everybody else is revisionist garbage. Okay. The people he looked up to were people like Stalin and Pol Pot and Saddam Hussein. I actually got into it with a Saddam dude on Twitter. Like, how the fuck? Okay, yeah, the United States definitely shouldn't have invaded this country. The United States needs to quit fucking around all over the world. But, like, how can you support a dude that gassed thousands of people? He used sarin and nerve gas on people. Do you know what that shit does to a human being? Look it up. You cannot criticize them either in the house. Again, cult. Marxists, especially Maoists, are all about criticism. But again, in the imperial core, my theory on like why cults are so prominent here is that in the imperial core, revolutionary ideology gets distorted because this shit isn't real to people here. Like, during my time on the Maoist left, basically, like, the root of shit that we did, besides, like, low level social investigation and class analysis, which to American Maoists usually just ends up being like hanging out at a train or a bus stop or something and harassing people with pamphlets and leaflets or trying to ask them stupid questions. Um, so besides that, and mutual aid work, which anarchists and DSA do much better than uh, unprofessional ass Maoists. Anyways, besides stuff like that, it's basically like fucking cheerleading people's wars in India and Peru and Turkey and in the Philippines, which, yes, are correct. Okay, I hope they win. I hope they drive the Americans and the compradors and the sellouts into the sea. But like, if your org is not doing anything but cheerleading and calling it international solidarity, like there's really no nothing real there. Okay, like DSA has an international committee, but it also has like very active groups that are helping house people, that are helping people fight their landlords. Like that's the type of shit that gets Americans into your work. Like, did this organization do any housing organizing? Did this organization organize workers? Like, you're constantly talking about workers, 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 workers. Where were you doing the fucking miners' strike? Like, were you there? Were you walking the picket with them? Were you helping them fight the pigs? Or were you just writing about it, trying to get people to join your cult? During the trial, she told the court she was beaten and banned from singing nursery rhymes, going to school, or making friends. She said her father used the sect as a pilot unit to learn how to control people before his aim of taking over the world. She said, I used to think, God, if the entire world is going to be like this, what way out is there? How can I live? How can I live in this? So I used to think that the best way to be would be to die. So they were living in Lambeth after they got run out of Brixton. Alrighty. Oh yeah, that's him. Very odd looking guy. Wavy, long hair. He was convicted in London's Southwark Crown Court on Friday of cruelty to a child and false imprisonment with regard to his daughter. He was found guilty of 12 other charges, including rape, indecent assault, and actual bodily harm against the other two women. His daughter, who cannot be named for legal reasons, said that Balakrishnan's main method of control was talking about his mind control machine called Jackie. Balakrishnan told the women that Jackie had the ability to torture and kill people who didn't follow him and didn't agree with being abused. Jackie was a real force of fear in the house, she said. He also convinced the women that he was all powerful and all seeing, according to the rest. Okay, this guy went fucking nuts. Okay, he was fucking crazy. Like, no Maoist believes that shit. No communist, no sane person believes these things. Nobody. Balakrishnan's daughter told investigators she was bullied, tormented, humiliated, isolated, and degraded, and she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder following her release. She was unable to perform ordinary day-to-day tasks or even cross a road unaided. She never attended school or saw a doctor, and aside from a birth certificate, police found no records, such as bank statements or social security details, that acknowledged she ever even existed. Balakrishnan would document every aspect of her life, including when she ate, when she went to the bathroom, what she had learned about communism that day. So he was homeschooling this girl, as well as what she learned about Balakrishnan's central role in the world. One of the victims said that the unbearable isolation led her to make friends with inanimate objects and develop romantic feelings for anyone who paid her attention. This is fucking wacky. Like, it makes the fucking CRCP USA look like DSA. Like, this is fucking wild. He talks more about Jackie here. Jackie was invisible, but had been built by the Communist Party of China. He blamed the machine for prompting his daughter to run away in May of 2005. May Day is Jackie's birthday, he said. He did something to her, obviously. He put some ideas in her head. Mr. Balakrishnan told Southwark Crown Court Jackie was an acronym for Jehovah, Allah, Christ, Krishna, Immortal, Iswaran. It could pull your head out from your body, he said. He denied ever beating his daughter. The prosecution alleges he kept her hidden for 30 years. Most of what she says is made up fantasy. For her to say these things is really very brave. Well, it's not brave. No, it's very stupid. Yeah, this guy, he had some type of shit going on. He had some type of shit going on. He looks like Bubbles. Bubbles from The Wire or Bubbles from Trailer Park? You know, I've never watched that show. Now, The Wire is my shit. So yeah, this guy's fucking nuts. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't armchair diagnose him, but yeah. Wow. So, yeah. Um, I really don't know what to say. Like, how do you how do you deal with something like this as a communist? Like, okay, like we go back to the 70s. Like, yeah, he was basically a garden variety revisionist type of weirdo mishmash Marxist Leninist Maoist. But like Marxist Leninist Mao Zedong thought, I'm sorry. Um, but like, okay, yeah, Maoists are fucking weird. I know because I am one. But how the fuck do you go from this very long, very dry, but garden variety Marxist shit to believing in Jackie? I don't fucking know. I just don't like. Um, I'm just at a loss for words. You think a fucking satellite or an invisible computer controls the world, and at the same time you're homeschooling your daughter in communism? But yeah, it's good he's dead, and it's good he was locked the fuck up. I'm a prison abolitionist like the next man, but like some people deserve to be isolated from society for their own good and for the good of the innocent people whose lives they may ruin. Well, whose lives they did ruin. So, an evil computer does not control the world. The bourgeoisie controls the world. To smash the bourgeoisie, we also have to smash leftist cults. Good night. Stay tuned for the next Cult Watch with B.